Welcome, guys, to the Travel Royally podcast. Normally, we try to post every week on Wednesdays. Since it's open week, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to post a podcast a day, a couple of our old favorites, a couple of new ones. Yesterday, we did Craig Gilholm, and today we have Jon and JD. They just got back from England a couple weeks ago. They got to play Hoyle Lake at Royal Liverpool. And they got to play a few other Open Championship venues, and they really loved it. So you'll hear a lot about Hoyle Lake, which is the Open Championship venue for this Open this week. Hope you guys enjoy. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Travel Royally podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have as our guests Jon and JD Williams. This is a father and son duo who recently returned from more than a week in England playing some of the best courses in the world. Jon and JD are from Athens, Georgia. And when they're not playing golf, Jon is the CEO of W&A Engineering and the Better Communities Collaborative. And JD just graduated from high school, and in the fall, he's headed to Shenandoah University in Virginia, where he'll be playing on the golf team. Jon and JD, welcome to the Travel Royally podcast.
Thanks, man. We really appreciate you doing this. This is great.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, well, as I said before we went on the air, and for everyone that's listening, they were great about sending photographs designed, I'm sure, to make me jealous because the weather was brilliant and you couldn't wipe the smiles off their face. And, I don't know if I told you guys, but my first trip over there was with my dad. Now I took him, and JD, now you're going to have to take your dad, obviously.
Exactly.
But I took him for his 60th birthday, and we had the time of our lives. And we went to Scotland, and then for his 70th, I took him to Ireland. So JD, it looks like you're on the hook for 2 trips at least.
I guess at this point I have to, right?
Hey, Jon, let's start with you. How did you come to golf in the first place?
From my dad. I grew up in a small South Georgia town, really 10,000 people, county and city. My grandfather owned a grocery store down there. And in the summers, my grandmother would take my dad down to Amelia Island. They had a little house down there that he bought in the 50s. And my dad started going out to the municipal course on Amelia Island at Fernandina Beach there, playing golf in the summers when they would spend a month or two down there. So he'd come back and there was no golf course in my hometown, nothing. And he kept playing, wound up going to the University of Georgia, getting a business degree, working on the University of Georgia golf course when it was being built, Robert Trent Jones designed golf course. So he helped sod the bunker faces and kind of fell in love with golf course maintenance, went to Lake City Community College down in Florida, got a degree, and ended up being the assistant superintendent actually at Sea Island Plantation not long after it opened in St. Simons.
Wow.
And then subsequently, my grandfather had a heart attack, as used to happen all the time. My dad had got the call to go back home to run the family business and went in the grocery business. So, when I came along, Dad thought that helping out with the kids was to grab me when I was 4 or 5 years old or 6 years old and take me to the golf course. So we started playing golf I started playing golf at a really young age. When we built a house in Alma, first thing he did was build a 150-yard driving range where we had, triplex lawnmowers held together with duct tape and chicken wire. And, my job to mow them on Saturday, and we hit balls and played at a little 9-hole municipal course in Appleton County. So that's how I got started. He used to drop me off over there before he would go to work and come and join me for 18 holes when he got done at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon on summer. So really been playing all my life.
Well, so you inherited, you've got a background in landscape maintenance, and I know that you worked on the course at University of Georgia, correct?
I did. I'm actually a landscape architect by trade. I own a civil engineering and surveying company, a landscape architecture company. But my main focus in college was actually golf course design. So I built golf courses in the summer with Mercuric Construction down in South Florida, one in Deerfield Beach and one in Naples, Royal Poinciana. We did a couple of Arthur Hills redos down there. So I was shaping greens and tees and doing that. And then kind of fell into the business that I'm in after college, just needed a job, and started in the land development kind of engineering business, and that took off. So here we are.
Well, then you've got a keen eye for golf course architecture and design and layout, construction, and so forth. Very cool.
It's all I studied pretty much in college.
Yeah. And JD, I'm assuming you learned to play golf through your dad as well.
I did. He taught me when I was really young, like 3 or 4, and he would just put me at 50 yards for like a par 3 or 100 yards for a par 4, and you just tee it up and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, that's excellent. So who's the better golfer now? I'm assuming JD. Is JD got the upper hand or no?
I do.
JD gives me strokes now. Yeah. He's got
Give
a
him-
little more time. He's got a little more time to work on his game though. So
Yeah, I think I had to give you 7 strokes.
on some of the courses over in England, if we were playing from the back tees, you did. Most of the time it was about 5, but yeah, depending on the slope ratings seemed to be a lot. They went up dramatically when you got to the back tees over there. So
Yeah.
our handicaps actually ranged a lot when we were over there. Between if we played close tees, sometimes it was one course, it was only 2 strokes, and then another course we looked from the back tees. That same course, it would have been 7 that he would have had to give me to equalize our. I mean, I think he's a 3 and I'm a 8, something like that, just on the card.
Yeah. Wow. That's I noticed in the video that you sent me of him swinging, he swings a little harder than you do, I'm assuming.
He's a bit more flexible than I am. He's also got about, I don't know, probably 5 inches on me, and maybe I don't think he's got me. I don't think he's maybe 50 pounds, something like that. So he generates a good deal more swing speed than I do. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. He blows it by me about off the tee, probably about 40 yards, and he's a club or 2 longer than I am all the way through the bag.
Yeah, that's great. Now you guys both you just returned from England, and you played Royal Lytham, SNA, Royal Liverpool, Royal Birkdale, Cinque Ports, and Rye. You stayed at the Dormy House at Lytham. You stayed at the Bell Hotel in Sandwich. You toured Anfield. You got a tour from our driver of Liverpool. Tell us, John, how was the trip overall?
I mean, it couldn't have been better. I mean, despite, in spite of the fact that you dialed up some perfect weather for us over there, I don't even think we didn't even pull out our rain gear the whole week. It was sunshiny and 75 to 80 degrees every day with a, probably no more than a club and a half a wind at its worst. So,
wow.
Yeah, we had a spectacular time. We played 7 days in a row after we kind of took a day off and rested and did some tours, like you said, the first day. By the time we were out on the course, we were itching to get out there, and played SNA first and those courses in the Northeast first, and then went down, and played, of course, the ones in the Southwest. But our driver was great. Paul was amazing.
Yeah.
Very accommodating. And then the tours we really enjoyed the football stadium tour. That was cool. But just playing those courses was incredible. And the caddies, were great. More often than not, knew a tremendous amount of history of not only the course, but the even shots that happened on those open courses. I mean, we were constantly hearing, this is where this pro hit it in this bunker on the last day, and made an 8 and was never to be heard from again. And so we got all the tales out there. It was great.
So you got the Thomas Bjorn story at Royal St. George's.
St. George's, yep, that bunker where he left it. Yeah. I guess he hit it up, it didn't make it up the slope, and it rolled back in, did it again, then hit it over the green, and then hit it back up. And I think he said he made an 8 or 9 on the hole, and that was it. And his exact words were never to be heard from again.
Yeah.
So.
And JD, what was your, you're obviously 18 years old or so. How did those courses play for you? I mean, they're completely different from what you play here at home.
Absolutely. They're just wildly different. I had to use a little lower flighted golf shot because as we mentioned earlier, I have some club head speed. So I usually throw it way up in the air and it stops on a dime.
Yeah.
But now I was hitting some lower shots, landing it short of the green and letting it run out, and
Yeah.
just like using the layout of the ground more and the course.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, JD, I became a much better golfer after I started playing links golf, because it forced you, I shouldn't say it forced you, it made you be more creative, right?
Mhm.
So I've got a friend named Jim Young, who's a member of the same club I am. His 7-iron is like a magic wand inside of 50 yards. He bump and runs it from everywhere, man. And I use that all the time now. And I bet I've chipped in 3 times this year with a 7-iron in wet conditions, right? Around Atlanta. So anyway, well, most of those courses weren't on your radar initially. I mean, initially you guys wanted to go to St. Andrews. We talked about how difficult the tee times were. But you got a great lineup of courses, don't you think?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and you know, I think what was great, Jeff, about working with you and your company is that, you know, we asked for something, you put together an itinerary for us in Scotland, you put together an itinerary for us in England, and said, you know, pick which one you want to go. You know, you tell me, we'll do whichever one you want to do. And you know, I talked to JD about it, and the lure of St. Andrews, of course, is huge for, you know, for American golfers, I think.
Yeah.
And but when we saw the lineup for the courses in England, and the fact that we could play, you know, 5 of our 7 courses would be open courses, and then you know, one of the other ones was a Ryder Cup course. I mean, it was like kind of a no-brainer. Plus I told JD we'd go back and play Scotland another time. So
yeah, I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, is that they think they're not going back, and so they want to play all the big trophy courses all at once, right? You know, for most of us, once we've gone once, we want to go back. I don't want to say all of our clients, most of our clients go back again. But yeah, the courses that you guys played are amazing. And I think the other thing, you know, when you think about it, if you take away the 4 courses that you played that are in the current Open Championship rota, when you talk about S&A, Royal Syncports, and Rye, those are just outstanding courses and amazing clubs that most Americans have never even heard of. Right. And
that's right. And
yeah.
I think S&A was even hosting the amateur championship the weekend after we were there. I mean, and we kind of fell into the Syncport, you know, course kind of at the last minute, was able to get on that. And I don't want to speak for JD, but honestly, that was probably my favorite course we played. So it's unfortunate. Wow. It's unfortunate that they can't host another Open there, just because they said because they didn't have enough room for the grandstands. They didn't have a hotel within so many miles of was big enough. But I don't know what JD would say to that, but I think that was my favorite course, even though it was the last one we played.
I mean, I'd say it's up there for sure, but I mean, I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but I played pretty well at Royal Liverpool with the grandstands up. So that was pretty that was pretty tough to beat.
Liverpool was probably it was definitely high up on the list. Yeah.
Well, you guys were fortunate with 2 things. One, you played Southport and Ainsdale when, like, in championship condition, ready for the Open Championship, or the Amateur Championship, I should say. And then you played Royal Liverpool with the stands up and have an amazing photograph with, you know, it looks like you guys played it like played in the championship.
Yeah.
So that's in championship condition. The rough's not going to get any higher. The rough's basically dead there now anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. And then no, it was the rough there was, from memory, it was tough, but it wasn't impossible, you know. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the pros handle it. But the rough at Syncport, a little bird told us they've been trying to get their slope rating up a little bit, so they've been letting the rough grow at Syncport. And if you got in that rough, you're pitching out sideways. I mean, there was no attempts in it, or I was. JD could get through it a little better than I could, but it was tough.
I played there about 10 years ago. I played there a couple times. So I played there 10 years ago. JD, you'll appreciate this. I shot 36 going out downwind.
Mm-hmm.
And 44 coming home. And every time I play, I want to break 80. And I bogeyed 18, and you're like, I mean, it was into it like at least a 2-club win, sometimes a 3-club win. I mean, it was insane trying to keep your ball in the fairway.
I think that was the only layout we played that really truly went 100% in one direction and then back the other direction. But
yeah,
they were all sort of like that, but they still wound around a little bit. But yeah, one of the par 3s at Sinkport, I don't know, JD, you remember the caddy telling us that sometimes he hit a 9 on a hole, sometimes he hit a 3-wood on which way the wind was blowing, and most of the time it was a 3. And the club pro, who was a +4, said that when the wind was blowing out there, he wouldn't play it from the back tee. He said it was the equivalent of playing it from like 8,500 yards.
wow.
So
Wow.
yeah.
The club I belong to, John, we've got a par 3, and the first time I went over there as a member, I played it 2 days in a row, and the 15th is a par 3. It's about 170 yards. And I birdied it 2 days in a row. 8-iron the first day downwind, 2-iron the second day into the wind. A 6-club difference in one day.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
really obviously that was a long time ago. I don't carry a 2-iron anymore, but anyway. Okay, so you guys, there are 14 courses that have ever hosted the Open Championship, and you've played 5 of them.
We did.
That's kind of amazing. And then, I mean,
it was cool. And we're all in great shape. I mean, every course we played was in great shape.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't know of anyone who's played 5. I mean, I've done it. I've made that same trip that you did. But beyond that, I don't know anyone else who's played 5 Open Championship courses in a week.
It was a long week. That was the most golf I've played in my life in a 7-day period of time.
Yeah. JD, what was your favorite course?
I think it's either between Sinkport or Royal Liverpool, to be honest with you. Sinkport was just a great course. I mean, it's hard to beat playing Royal Liverpool with stands up, firing a 4-under on the back 9. And
he had to get that in, didn't he, John?
Firing a 4-under
on the back. It was so much fun to watch. I mean, and that was with him hitting driver 5-iron into the 18 out of the rough to about 8 feet and missing the putt for eagle on the 18th on the par 5. So, but still pretty darn good to go out there and shoot a 4-under on the back, particularly because, I mean, he didn't play outstanding on the front, but, just to come back and, I mean, he didn't miss a shot on the back 9 for the most part. I mean, he almost had a hole-in-one on 17.
Yeah, I saw that picture. You almost did as well.
Yeah, the caddies actually said it's the first time they'd ever caddied for 2 people that both hit that green and birdied it. Wow. Because they redid that green for this championship.
Yeah.
And it's treacherous. It's like landing it. It's only 100 yards.
Yeah.
The pros are going to play it at like 115. We played it that day right at 100. And I mean, it's the size of a tabletop, and it's trouble in the back, 20-foot deep bunkers in the front. JD hit it at 6 inches, and I hit it to about 12 feet, so made the putt.
Excellent.
That was after the caddies told us how hard the hole was and how impossible it was, and they said that they might not do that next time before people play it. So,
well, John, other than Sinkports, what would be your next favorite course?
I mean, my favorite experience was watching JD. That we had at Hoy Lake at Royal Liverpool there, and that course was phenomenal. Really very subtle greens there, though. I mean, very flat greens, not much break in them, and it was really interesting to try to get the reads down there. And then, very different from Sinkport and St. George's, where there was a lot more, undulation on the surface of the green. So between those three, Singport, St. George, and Hoylake were my top three.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, you guys were really fortunate. You got to play Southport and Ainsdale literally days before the amateur championship was there.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that course?
Well, the first thing that happened is like I said, we got in, we got in early one morning. We had all that day to kind of piddle around, and then we had all the next day that we went touring. So we'd been in the country for 2 days, and we were both just about to bust to get out there and play some golf.
Yeah.
So I think I promptly duck hooked the first tee shot into the next fairway on a par 3. We settled into it. That course was actually probably, as far as difficulty level, I mean, there's not really anywhere to miss it on that course. It was a tough course to play. I mean, you just really target golf. You're hitting it from spot to spot. And if we didn't have good caddies out there, you really wouldn't know where to, you wouldn't know where to hit it, where to place it, where to land it. But those guys were great. We ended up having a beer with them afterwards. One of our caddies was the caddy master, and that actually won the club championship about 3 years before that at SNA. So we had a great time out there.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I think people overlook is the amount of fun you have in the club, right? That's a club you could become a member of.
Yeah.
Right, easily, right, and you'd be very happy to play, the next 40 years of your life, John, playing that every day. It's a fantastic golf course.
It is,
and it's a feeling that you don't always get at the bigger clubs, where a lot of the members live outside of the town. Everyone at SNA lives within 20 miles of that course, I would imagine.
That's right.
Whereas people that are members of Royal St. George's live in London or overseas or what have you. Pardon me?
At Rye, that's what they said. Most of the people that are members at Rye are in London.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. That was one of the biggest surprises my group had when we went there, 10 or 15 years ago, was just how great SNA was. I remember we were out on like 15th hole looking at each other like, how is the whole world not making tracks to get here and play this course? It's fantastic.
It was. And it had the same, like you said, just a real low key vibe. I mean, very down to earth. All the members were great. People were stopping and talking to us. And it was very much the same as Singport was, actually, kind of a super, super chill.
Yeah.
Low key,
Did you find Rye to be that way as well? Or was that a little stuffier? I shouldn't say stuffy. I've got a friend that's a member there. It's wonderful.
Actually, the people we met at Rye, I mean, everybody we ran into, they were redoing their clubhouse when we were there. So it was a little confusion of how to get from place to place, from, where you check in to where your locker is to where the lunch was. And, we kept running into people, and everybody we talked to at Rye was just like, hey, what are you guys up to? What are you doing? So, I mean, it was great. They were, we talked to several gentlemen, had lunch there. It was really a good experience.
Excellent. JD, tell me, what was it like playing Royal Liverpool with the stands up?
I mean, that first tee shot was pretty nerve-wracking, to be honest with you, looking down and just seeing stands. But
yeah,
you eventually settled in, and it doesn't help when playing a match against my dad with the British Open stands up. So that adds some pressure. But it was more of just a surreal thing, because any day on the golf course beats a day sitting at home doing nothing.
Well, yeah, playing 18 had to be special because they even had the scoreboard up behind you guys, right?
They did. That was really cool, because I hit a drive into the left rough and then hit a 5-iron at 8 feet. And just like walking down that fairway with the yellow scoreboards up and all the grandstands was a really special treat.
Yeah. Now, what will the two of you be looking for when you watch the Open this year when the pros are playing there? Are you going to, I mean, you've got special memories of the 17th, and you guys, JD, you both almost had hole-in-ones. Are there other things that you're going to be looking for as they play through there?
I'm interested to see how they attack some of the shorter holes because I know there were a couple holes that I could have like bombed a driveway down there or maybe like been a little more aggressive, but you could also lay back and hit an iron off the tee. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that comes into play of like
Yeah,
would.
that hole that the one you're talking, the one that runs right behind the clubhouse, right there, where you can sit and see. They changed the number of the holes, so I don't remember.
Right.
Whichever hole it is that runs right beside the clubhouse. I mean, it's potentially a drivable par four, but you got to drive it over OB. OB on the right, OB on the left. I mean, I think JD hit a 5-iron off that tee box.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they did. You must have played. Did you guys play the championship layout? No.
We played the member layout on that course.
Yeah.
We most of the courses they would have let us play a little further back if we asked, and we did. There was I think we played 2 or 3 of them from what would be considered not the pro tees, but the next one behind the daily tees as they called them most of the time.
Yeah.
But like I said, JD hits a lot further than I do, so my game's not super well suited to stretching it out once it gets to beyond 7,000 yards. So it makes for a long day for Dad.
Did you guys play the back tees at Birkdale?
I think Birkdale was one of the ones we played. I don't know. I don't even know what they call it, but yeah, we played the back, but not the. There was 2 sets behind the member tees most days where we played, but the pro tees. I mean, there were some of them that you couldn't even see the tee boxes. They'd be 60 yards, 70 yards behind what we would consider the back tees.
Yeah,
they were adding all these tee boxes. What course was that? They kept taking us to the one. Was that
That was Sinkport, I think.
No, what was it? Sinkport had added some, but so did St. George. I think had added some.
Mm-hmm.
Too, that were just like forever away.
Yeah, you can look over your shoulder and they're another 70 yards, 80 yards back there.
Yeah, it reminds me what you're talking about of Eastlake. When I play there with a buddy of mine from the member tees, and you look over your shoulder like you described, JD, you're looking back 70 yards. It's like a whole different golf course from back there.
It really is.
Right.
One of the things too, JD, you talked about how you had to adjust your golf game to have a lower ball flight. I've heard experts say, golf pros say, it's like golf in the States or golf on a parkland course like we play versus links golf. It's like 2 different games. It's kind of like softball and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're extremely similar, but they're also very different. For I think people that the uninitiated, if someone from England came over and watched a softball game and a baseball game, they'd say, well, they're the same game. If they watch an entire game of each sport, they'd realize how different they are. And I think links golf is a different game. If you want to play well, you can't play it like you do here.
Absolutely. I'd say it definitely just takes more creativity and like thinking before you hit. You can't just sit up there and be like, oh, I'll fire at this pin and it'll stop on a dime.
Yeah.
And I'll spin it back.
Yeah. That's the difference. I mean, we spent our whole life playing to the yardage the pin is. I mean, at least up to a 5-iron. I mean, anything below that, I mean, we're trying to hit it the number of the pin is for the most part. And over there, I mean, we were landing at 30, 40 yards short of the pin with 2 or 3 clubs less,
Yeah.
In some cases.
Yeah. The 5th hole at my club has the green is kind of set down 20 feet below the surface of the fairway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the approach shot is almost like when you hit a putt that has to just get to the edge of the hill and then it tumbles down and it'll roll 20 feet. Mm-hmm. That's all you have to do. You have to come in from the left side. Now they've got a bunker there that you have to deal with, but if you get it just to crest that hill and tumble down, it'll roll 30 or 40 yards down to the hole.
We have a hole like that at our home course. It's hole number 3. If you can get the right bounces, you can end up hitting the green. Like if you fly it over a couple of bunkers and you get like 2 hard bounces, you're putting for eagle.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What did you guys think of the course at Royal Lytham?
That was a difficult golf course, to be
That
honest.
was a tough golf course. There's a ton of bunkers out there, man. There's bunkers everywhere out there. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I found a lot of them, and my bunker game wasn't the best for the week. JD didn't struggle from the bunkers, I don't think, really at all. I mean, he was able to, had enough club head speed to get out of the fairway bunkers and advance it pretty far. And then, but yeah, what is there, like 170 bunkers on that course or something? I mean,
Yeah, it's a crazy number, right?
they were everywhere. I mean, and as far as that was probably the day that I was the most tired from the travel and kind of the jet lag and stuff like that. So the back nine was pretty tough there. But what I will say is the experience of being there at the Dormy House was one of the coolest experiences we had. I mean, I would highly recommend that to anybody that goes over. In fact, I mean, if we went back to that area of the country and played the same thing again, I mean, I'd love to make that be home base and just play out of there instead of staying in Southport.
Yeah.
Just because it was so neat to be, you could sit up on the balcony of the club, have a beer, watch guys finish the 18th hole. The gentleman that was kind of in charge of making sure we had everything we needed, what was his name? Tony, I think, was fantastic. The room was great. Yeah, the putting greens right outside the room. We went outside in the afternoon and putted on the greens. So that was a super cool experience.
That was also the same day I had a caddy who is the same age as me, of 18. So that was a really cool experience of being able to exchange stories or what we're doing next in life, like comparing the American way to the British way.
Man, I'm so happy to hear that, JD. Those are some of the serendipitous things that happen on these trips, right? Where you become friendly with Paul, the driver. You have a great experience with Tony, who's kind of the house, the chief of the house at Royal Lytham, and to have that experience with your caddy is really neat. I really felt so strongly that I wanted you guys to stay there that we had to break up your stay. You had to check in twice to the hotel in Southport, but I'm like, I know that's kind of a pain, but you don't want to miss staying in that dorming house.
I agree. I was really confused when I read the itinerary. I was like, we're going back to the same hotel 3-4 days later. But once we did it, it made sense. And I'm thankful we got to stay in the dormy house.
Yeah, there's another course nearby. You guys, there are a handful of courses there that you didn't play that are fantastic. There's a course there called Hillside. There's another nearby called Formby. There's another course called West Lancs. There's one close to Liverpool called Wallasey. I mean, you could build a trip where you didn't leave that Lancashire coast, on the other side of the Mersey River where Royal Liverpool and Wallasey are, and have 10 days of just amazing golf. But Formby has a dormy house as well. Now, Formby's not as famous, although I want to say they've had Walker Cups there. It's an amazing golf course. And one trip that I took my buddies on, we stayed in both of those dormy houses and had the same experience you did. Like, this is just unbeatable. And being able to go into the clubhouse and have breakfast or lunch or an early dinner is just magic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool. What was your favorite off-course experience? Watching JD drink his first beer.
I wish I could say that was his first beer. We both know better than that, but I mean that was a special thing to be able to go to the pub at night, grab a beer. We throw darts and made friends with some of the local folks. We adopted our home pub there in Southport and went 3 nights there, and we ended up doing the same thing when we were in Sandwich. We went to the same little pub restaurant 3 nights in a row, and ended up taking our driver there for dinner the last night. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. How about you, JD?
I mean, I want to say making friends with the caddy that I had, but I guess that's an on-course experience. But I guess I'll agree with my dad here for the first time that just being able to hang out, throw darts, and just play snooker. It was a really fun time, just hanging out, talking about anything and everything. Because I leave soon for college, so it was a really sweet, special time to just hang out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you're not going to learn snooker over here. That's a
Actually,
game I learned at Formby, by the way. They had a pool room and we had a ball.
believe it or not, I grew up playing snooker in Alma, Georgia.
Really?
We had a pool hall in Alma, Georgia, and when we weren't working at the grocery store, we'd shoot a lot of pool, and there was a snooker table in there. Yeah,
Wow. I'd never seen one. I'd never seen the game before.
massive.
What's that?
They're massive.
Yeah, yeah. JD, what did you think of Anfield, where Liverpool Football Club plays?
That was really cool because my assistant golf coach for high school is an Arsenal fan. So I got to send him all the pictures and videos. And I have a couple of buddies who watch a lot of soccer over there. So I got to just experience it. And it was really cool because I like their chants or like them singing is something we don't get here. Back home, it's just a whole lot of yelling or being as loud as possible.
Yeah.
So it was a nice change of pace, and it was a nice bit of history too.
Yeah. Well, and I know that your driver Paul's a Everton fan, so he
It
took
did
you
not
down to
make
their
him
new
happy.
stadium, didn't
It did not
Yes,
make him
he did.
happy when we toured Ainsdale.
he?
He had a real hard time with that. But yeah, he showed us where his new stadium was going.
God, what a beautiful location, huh? Right on the water there.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Liverpool's a great town. You guys didn't get to do the Beatles tour, but that's fantastic as well. And anyway.
Sort of did. I mean, Paul took us to we went to Lennon's house. We went to the Strawberry Fields.
Okay.
We did a Paul Beatles tour, and we just cut it down to and then we went and saw the statue, went to the ferry terminal there where the big statue is.
Yeah.
So yeah, we caught a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
That was cool.
Thanks to our driver.
What was John, what was your biggest surprise of the trip?
Biggest surprise, probably the fact that when you're playing over there and you're like a member of the course for the day. I mean, they welcome you in as a member. We had a locker. We were able to go where the members went, do what the members did at every course we went to. Really, I don't think that's the way it is when you play as a guest, particularly an unaccompanied guest. Now, if we took somebody to our private course here in Athens and they were with us, they would certainly, be welcome to go in the locker room or do whatever, but
Right.
They wouldn't have a locker, and they wouldn't, it's just that I thought that was pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
JD, how about you?
I guess I would just say how they welcomed us with open arms. It was like really nice. Plus, this is like a small little thing, but no spikes inside the clubhouse or where you're eating.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting one the first time when we walked in. We had to go change shoes because usually when you show up to the golf course, you just throw on the spikes right away.
Right.
And don't think twice.
Right. And the same with that cap. You can't wear a cap in there.
We have to take our hats off at our home course. So that one I kind of saw coming.
Yeah. My biggest disappointment of your whole trip, John, was I didn't see JD wear the Royal Links Golf Tours hat I sent him once. So he always had the Shenandoah University golf hat on. I was disappointed.
Well, now there's a thing there with that, Jeff. I'm gonna tell you, JD and I both have pretty big noggins.
The Royal hat fits me. I wore it the other day to play golf.
Did you?
Yes.
We get the big buckets, So
Yeah, I gave you the standard old man hat that I wear. I gave him the cooler trucker cap that's younger.
I didn't know he had a trucker cap. I thought he had one for me. Yeah.
No, he got the trucker cap.
I got the trucker cap.
I get a trucker cap. Let me know what I owe you and send me one of those. That's.
I'll put one in the mail for you for doing the podcast.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay. What's your best memory of the trip, John?
100% watching JD, go low on the back nine of of a golf course that is we're about to watch them play the British Open on. I mean that coupled with just, they're probably, there may or may not ever be another time in my life where JD and I spend 10 days together, traveling together, just us.
Yeah.
It was probably the best decision that we also made. I mean, early on, we talked about trying to find another 2 guys to go and round out a foursome. But I am so grateful that we just ended up just being me and JD and doing it that way. Which takes me back to my biggest surprise of the trip which was that we didn't get paired up a single time.
Wow.
I fully expected it as a twosome that we would be playing with another group of people at every course we went to, and not one time did we play with anybody else, which, blessing and curse. Blessing that we got to hang out just with each other. Curse was, there was if there was several foursomes in front of us, it was a little slow sometimes, but that shocked me that they didn't pair us up.
Well, and you had caddies most days, so that made for great company as well, as you guys.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. JD, how about you? What was your best memory of the trip?
I mean, he kind of took mine going low, but I guess, I don't know. There was one day that stands out to me in particular was we were spending the night at the Dormy house, and we had just finished playing, and we went and showered for dinner, and then we came out and putted for a while on the putting green and just talked, and then we went up to the balcony and watched some guys play 18 and just talked like 2 guys just hanging out. So that was really special to me.
Excellent. John, you can't buy those kinds of memories, right? That's just amazing.
Well, you can't. You can. I mean, we sort of did buy them, but you can't put a price on them.
Right. That's a better way of putting it. Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right there. Now, JD, I haven't said this, but congratulations on graduating from high school.
Thank you.
And now you're headed to play golf at Shenandoah this fall. How do you think this trip prepared you for playing golf in college?
I mean, obviously, I play golf a lot now, but it was just a continuation of continuing to practice and just play consistently all day, every day. Plus, it made me start thinking, because back home, like, I know exactly what the course does. You just kind of fire it down there, find it, and it's wide open. So it definitely required me to hit some better iron shots or keep it more straight and narrow, which is something I've been trying to do.
Yeah, that's excellent. I'm going to go off script a little bit. I love the town of Sandwich. And one of the things that I remember about staying there is that they seem to have, and this goes back when I first went there 20 years ago or so, pubs that were serving a lot of local craft brews. Did you find that pub that you guys found, was it similar to that, where they had, I forget what they call it, where they have to pump it?
Yeah.
They
did have some of that in there.
Yeah.
I stuck with the I've lost the name now.
Please don't say Budweiser.
Guinness.
The Guinness. I drank a fair bit of Guinness. But the pub that we went to, they had a local kind of IPA, I think, that JD drinks on. They were making over there. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's excellent.
The place that we actually ended up hanging out in Sandwich was the guy was a chef and wanted to do something different, and they basically opened I'd call it a kind of a fancy American barbecue restaurant. I mean, they had some other stuff on the menu too, but he had pulled pork, he had brisket, he had.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a good restaurant, and the service was great.
Yeah.
I mean, we were staying. Our hotel was across the street from a pub that had a sign that said established in 1491. I mean, a year before Columbus ever even took off over here.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, the history. I spent about half a morning walking around the streets of Sandwich and the little narrow streets and all the little shops and towns and art galleries and shops. It was really a super cool little town.
Yeah. Yeah. One other thing that we haven't talked about was the experience at Royal St. George's. Did you enjoy the lunch?
Oh, absolutely.
It was off the chain. It really was. That is something very different than American golf. I mean, there's, we don't, at least at our club, there's no take a shower and go put on your coat and tie.
Yeah.
And then go to lunch. But we sat inside at the main dining room. The food was just, I mean, it was 5-star food. It was crazy for lunch. I mean, really good.
I will say, I think that's one of the best showers I've ever taken.
Exactly. I told you guys, those were the best, man.
That was a good one.
And you know what? It didn't feel. You talked about how Southport and Ainsdale is laid back, right? It's got a laid back vibe, and we like that. I also like the formality of a Royal St. George's, where you have to shower, put on a jacket and tie. Yep. There's something about that. I mean, and they're very friendly there too. They welcome you with open arms, as JD said, right?
We did that at St. George's, and we did it also at Rye, I believe. We put a coat and towel on there.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, St. George's, the first thing that happened to us there. I mean, we're wandering around trying to figure out kind of where the range is, hits the balls, and there's a guy out there that's practicing. Just he's probably a couple years older than me, but he's just striping it down the middle of the fairway. He strikes up a conversation with us, talks to us the whole 10 minutes wherever they're warming up on the range. Super nice guy,
Yeah.
And that was at St. George.
Yeah.
That was the other thing that was going on is at St. George, the third course. There's 3 courses right there, right? There's Singapore, St. George, and one more.
Prince's.
And so the women's amateur championship was going on that course while we were there.
Mm-hmm.
We could see them playing from some of the holes we were playing on St. George.
They were playing their match play portion, so they were getting down to the final bits. So that was really cool to watch, because I could look at it on my phone and kind of figure out who was who and look at the pairings in the match and how it stood.
Yeah. Well, I've got a golf course rating that I've done for all the courses over there that I've been to, and I've played about 90 links courses now, and about 190 rounds in total. Now, a lot of those are on my home course, right, over there. But my number one course is Royal St. George's. And I shouldn't say course, because the rating is more inclusive than that. It's talking about not only the playability of the course and the layout and the history, but it's also talking about the amenities, like whether it's the lunch, the showers, having a driving range, and I've got that rated the highest of all 90 golf courses. I love going there, but I love the informality of places like the club I belong to or Southport and Ainsdale. Those are just wonderful places.
Yeah, St. George was an incredible layout. It was really good. And the guy, our caddy that day, JD, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he said he'd been caddying there for 27 years.
Yeah, he had been there. He had been there a long time.
So he knew every tee box that had been moved, every green that had been reshaped, every hole that had been redone.
Yeah.
All the stories. It was
good. So what's next for you in terms of golf buddy trips? You should, whether you go over there or you go someplace in the States, you've got a legacy to uphold, John.
I know there was talk of banding at some point, but
I told JD, I think our next international golf trip may come when he graduates from his undergraduate degree at college. That'd be I feel like a good spacing, and then hopefully in these summers that are in between there while he's in school, I mean, I would love to take him and even a person or two that's on his golf team in Shenandoah, if we could work that out, to go play some of the places we haven't played in America. I mean, JD, he did play golf all over the country until he was about 12. So when he was 9, he and I played Pebble Beach together. So we've played some pretty good courses. But we haven't ever been to Kohler. I'd like to get up there and check out that area, Whistling Straits and all that. Get out to Bandon. We went down and played Stream Song a couple years ago during spring break. That was a fun little jaunt. But, just some 3-4 day golf trips here stateside till we get him through college, and we'll see.
So JD, you've got that. This is on a recording now. Your dad's taking you when you graduate. So
I'm holding them to it. Can't take it back.
well, he's holding you to. He said in 4 years. So I think he's going to. The caveat there is you have to graduate in 4 years. You can't
That's
be.
right.
I mean, that's the hope. If I don't graduate in 4 years, I think I got bigger issues than a golf trip.
Well, you mentioned something earlier, John. I wanted to go back to just briefly. When we first started talking, it was going to be you and JD and another father and son, I think, from Tennessee or somewhere.
No, it wasn't another father and son. It was a good friend of mine from Tennessee that owns a company up there that he and I got to be friends. And because one of my offices is up in Nashville. So, they're just family friends of ours. And then he had a friend that wanted to go play. So it was actually going to be my good friend who JD didn't know. And then his good friend who neither one of us knew. It just didn't work out. And it kind of, like I said, a little bit of serendipity there. It's just kind of, it worked out the way exactly how it needed to work out, I think, for this trip.
Yeah. Okay, I've got one last question, and this is kind of a two-parter because I want you to talk about golf and how it's different over there and how someone might prepare, but also about the experience over there. And as you think about planning a trip like this. So the question is for someone going over to the UK for the first time to play links golf, what advice do you have for them? John, let's start with you.
Start with me.
Yeah.
I think, and really it was easy for me in this case because I was with JD, and for me, this trip was more about spending time with him than it was me playing great golf at the end of the day. I don't think you go and play these courses holding any expectation that you're going to be, busting your low round or even shooting your handicap at the end of the day. I think if you go over there with it, truly for the experience, and the people, the history, like you said, how they do things versus how we do things. And then if you play a good round of golf, and, both of us played some, we talked about JD's low 9 holes, but I mean, both of us had a couple of days where we played pretty decent, for me and for him. But I think if you tried to gear that trip and practice really hard before you went, it's like, I'm gonna be playing the best golf of my life when I go to England. I think you're gonna set yourself up for a tough week, man, because it's so different. I mean, the bunkers are different, the tee shots are different, the greens are different, everything's different, and it's not the same game. So you practice till you're blue in the face here and at stateside, and you can be striking the ball good, and the better you strike it, the better you're going to probably score. But it's still going to be, you're going to be thrown for some loops over there, and I think you just got to take what comes.
The one thing that I do before I go over for about 2 weeks, I go to the range and just practice hitting punch shots.
Yeah,
hitting low, boring shots, right? Kind of sawed off stingers, if you will. But anyway, JD, how about you?
I would definitely just say, I mean, I practice a lot anyways, but you definitely just got to learn how to control your ball flight. Like you mentioned earlier, just learn how to keep the ball below the wind, or else it's going to be a long day. So just keep it under it. And then I guess just go over with no expectations and have a good time. Because if you start putting pressure on yourself and you're not going to play well, you're not going to go out there and shoot a 72. So just go out, have fun with the people you took, because it'll probably bring some of your best memories that you will hold on for a long time.
Yeah. Well said, JD.
Listen to the caddies.
There's a good.
If they tell you to fly at 140 and the pin's at 170, just fly the damn thing 140. Just hit it. Just hit it 140. I mean, don't argue with them. Don't just hit it where they tell you to hit it.
Did you guys even use your measuring devices?
We actually most of the time our caddies would take them and use them. They didn't have them. They used GPS watches. They gave them front of the green, back of the green, but it wouldn't always give them the exact pin location. So once they figured out that we both had measuring devices, yard rangefinders, whatever, most days my caddy took my rangefinder after a hole or two and would shoot the pin if I asked them to.
Yeah.
Same here. I mean, I stopped asking how far the pin was. I was just like, how far do you want me to fly this? Was my
Exactly.
question.
Yeah.
That was the question. How far do you want to fly it? And then does that account for the wind or not? You know,
Yeah.
are you telling me to hit a 170 shot today with the wind, or are you telling me to fly at 170 when there's no wind? And you clarify that, and then that's what JD was talking about, thinking your way around the course. A lot more to consider, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, I think the reason is there's a lot more trouble, right? I mean, like you were talking about at Lytham. I mean, they've got holes. Look, the opening par three's got 5 or 6 bunkers around that green. You get in, I mean, you could derail your round in the first hole. Or
Oh, yeah, I doubled it. I did. Hit it in the bunker, left it in the bunker.
Well, it's a back left pin, and you pull it into the left side bunker.
Yeah,
short
side stuff. Yeah, up next to the lip. Yep.
yeah. Wow.
The other advice would be just take your daggum medicine. I mean, if you're, you know, you just can't pull. I mean, if you hit it in the bunker, get it out of the bunker. You hit it in the rough, just get it out of the rough. Take your bogey, you go on down the road most time.
Yeah. That was the best golf advice my dad ever gave me, which was when you get in trouble, get out of trouble. Don't, you know.
Well, it's different though, because like our course that we play, that JD's talking about, that he knows every bump and roll on here in the States, is, you know, it's an old Donald Ross course. It's not a subdivision course, so the holes are routed back and forth. I mean, trouble is, there's just, I mean, you hit it 2 fairways over and still hit it towards the green you were meant to be playing at. That is not the case over there. I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you look behind me, you can see Royal Liverpool, and you can see the rough is probably 3 feet high. I mean, I know it might be wispy this time of year, but you don't want to go that far offline. You don't want to be 20 yards left or right of the fairway. It can be dead in there. Hell, you'll be lucky to find the ball. Without a caddy, it would be difficult for us to even find a golf ball.
Yeah, we would have lost dozens of balls if we hadn't had caddies, but they could somehow walk right to them. So
yeah. Well, John, before you guys left, you said, "Hey, don't worry about us. We're going to be low maintenance." And you were absolutely right. You guys are a pleasure to work with, and I really, really enjoyed the photographs that you guys sent. It really made my day to see the smile on your faces, and also made me a bit envious, obviously. So
there's a bunch more that I've got a little thing set up on my iPhone with a photo album. I'll add you to that album. You can look through all the ones from our trip that we put on that album.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to put some on the. We don't have a page yet for photographs, but we're gonna add that so that we can put up some photographs and some testimonials. And we have a testimonial page, but we don't have photographs around those. So we're gonna get that set up.
There's some good videos on there too, like me and JD walking down 18 at Hoy Lake, you know, with the caddy doing the video and commentating. That's one of my favorites. So look for that one.
Oh, that'll be great. That'll be great. Well, guys, hey, it was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for joining the Travel Royally podcast. I know people are going to love this, and thanks again. We really appreciate it.
We really appreciate it, Jeff. Everything you did, it was great.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for everything you did.
Hey, my pleasure, JD. Be well, guys.
Hey, guys. Thank you for tuning in today. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we've got podcasts all week. We're going to finish off with Clive Clark on Sunday with the finishing of the Open Championship as well. So stay tuned. Thank you so much.